wait for another 5 minutes and then we'll start.
Sure. So let me ask you, what have you been doing since we last met?
Oh, so I completely switched my career towards human behavior research. I took all the psychology courses during my PhD tenure here at IIT
Okay.
Kanpur. And I found it really interesting that, okay, psychology is a very complex field. It's not like you will
Yeah.
study one subject and you will become master of it. There are so many theories, so many school of thoughts that's not possible to grasp everything. But I thought I will work
Right.
on design cognition. So presently I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on how emotions interplay a role when you are engaged in the design process.
Okay. For the designer, basically.
Yeah,
Oh,
for designers, not for the users, because
right.
everybody, Norman and Don Norman and every other researchers have taken that
Yes.
perspective
Okay.
where they
Correct.
try to
Yeah.
specifically study users, how they feel,
Mm-hmm.
is the product
Right.
pleasurable or not. But for
Right.
me, how can I augment the capabilities of a designer or the design process? So
Interesting.
there I'm trying to capture facial expression in real time. I have already conducted the experiment,
Mm-hmm.
and based on the facial expression change, so this is the first research where I have captured, and I will publish a paper, and on the basis
Okay.
of these findings, we will try to make a product which will show you some visual cues or whatever cues
Mm-hmm.
you may call it, on the basis of your facial expression change. So
Got it.
suppose you're stuck, you're not able to move ahead for whatever reasons. So that
Mm-hmm.
will somehow read your facial expressions, because that technology is already available and we can use that. And
Understood.
yeah, so it depends on the designer whether they want to use these cues or not for their
Okay.
benefit. Yeah. So
Okay.
this is what my reason.
You can easily sort of extend them to other creative types and
Yeah, exactly.
other professions, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I wanted to
Like
give the
teachers and
baseline.
students,
Yeah.
for
Nobody
example.
has given any baseline about facial expressions, what facial
Mhm.
expressions are when you're indulged in the creative process or the design
Right.
process. So this is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times my my expression is mostly WTF is happening. How can I control it? Yeah.
Actually,
So,
even though you know that you are feeling a certain kind of emotion, you can't control it. People,
yeah.
there's a different field domain that is emotion regulation. You can regulate your emotion, but it needs to be practiced for a
Okay.
long period of time. So this is what people
Got
have
it.
been trying to do in research. So I think,
Very
Manjri,
interesting.
we have enough people to hear, so
All right.
we can start your
So,
session.
sure. So while my midnight creativity came up with this awesome title of observations and insights, I think what I'd really want to talk about today is sort of introduce myself, take you through a journey of what I've done, where I've been, which is not much, and then talk to you essentially about what I've learned along the way. And so, without further ado, let me introduce myself. I'm Manjiri Deshpande. In IIT Kanpur, I was Manjiri Zogrekar. So now, if you find anything by me or anywhere anything written by me, it will be Zogrekar, not Deshpande. Anyways, after IIT Kanpur, I have been working for about 4.5 years at Honeywell, and I ended up. It was my first professional workplace, and I essentially ended up doing whatever I could get my hands on, be it a two-line dot matrix display, a user interface for that, to a really complex software that could help in, having security for large facilities like casinos, airports, and so on and so forth. So, and after that, I switched to Microsoft, where I've been for the last 8 years. In fact, I'll complete 9 years this January. And Microsoft has been a journey of maturity and resilience. Essentially, because I came in as an experienced designer and I worked mostly on productivity software, started my way with some part of SharePoint developer experiences, worked in Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, then worked on some new endpoints for Microsoft. Um, which were phone on Android, and on the Office Android apps, and also on something that was called the Windows app. And then I've also more recently been working on Visio, uh, and a task management application called To Do, and a note taking application called OneNote. And all of these products are used by enterprises and consumers both. So it's essentially, how do you have the balance for a product with more complexity serving the enterprise needs, and more simplicity serving the consumer needs as well. And throughout my career at both Honeywell and Microsoft, I've gone through the rigor that comes with failed features, abysmal design critics, creating newer product features, newer products, in fact, and also helping create teams, which means bringing people together, hiring people, and a lot more. More so now that I work as a manager. Um, and along the way, at IIT Kanpur, Honeywell, and Microsoft, there are these things that I have learned trying to learning how to see. That was my essentially coming from engineering into IIT Kanpur. How do you learn to see like a designer, like a creative? What are my creative influences? I didn't know who Bob Dylan was till I came to IIT Kanpur, and it was Professor Amit Ray who introduced me to him. Madhubani art, a lot of things were. It was a heady mix of all these creative influences that you will see your first years at IIT Kanpur, and hopefully you get to go to the campus soon. And you'll see those creative influences all around you, and in you, manifesting themselves in your work. I had a whole lot of freedom, and I also created lifelong friends. You just heard Sadiki sir mention a few. And post that, the little dots that you see right here, they sort of represent a gap. After MDes, I had a slight gap of a year and a half, where I took some time off to get married. So that was a major life event. And then after that, came back to India, worked in Honeywell. As a first professional workspace, there was a huge difference between what you are taught and the rigor that you have in terms of methods, how to do them, and how to pursue them from right from the beginning till the end without, without letting go of a step. But when you come to the actual way of working in a corporate environment, the reality is quite different. The process is quite messy. You have to start getting a bit more scrappier with your methods. What is it that will get me the outcome in the least amount of time, the same outcome in the least amount of time? That essentially is the trade-off that you have to look at. Good, fast, cheap, you will not get all three together. You'll always have always have to have a trade-off between these three things. Um, a lot of my Honeywell time was focused on creating habits as a designer, creating habits as a person who could manage her work alone, by herself, not really alone, but by herself, which is time management, project management. A lot of these I wished at that point, had I had that rigor when I was a student, I would have been a lot better than what I was back then. Um, it was also about creating a shared vocabulary with which you could communicate to engineers, PMs, architects, technical architects, to the leadership. So it was all about developing that vocabulary and the rigor, and all of this developing a creative confidence. At that stage in my career, creative confidence was essentially the most important thing. And now I feel that I should revisit it at the point where I am in Microsoft, where I'm managing a team, where I have to teach others, where I have to mentor and coach others as well, uh, to ensure that they also are on the path for to being creatively confident, or creative confidence is there for them, right? When I came to Microsoft, it was a totally different world, coming from a service based company to product based company where you owned a product, the impact and the scale of that impact of just changing a button or creating a new feature was felt in millions. And that is where you need now to again change your point of view. There is an inflection point that you have where you have to become a lot more outcome focused, and be resilient. There are resilience. I cannot undervalue resilience at all. It's extremely important as a characteristic, and as a student, again, something that you should start inculcating. Not everybody will get design, not everybody will understand it the way that the passion that you are bringing to it. So you have to have resilience. And then a lot, you'll see that I spent around 9 years here at Microsoft, and a lot of that journey has been in terms of growth and in terms of maturity. Um, as a designer, as an individual contributor, as a manager, as a mentor and coach, and then as hopefully evolving into a design leader, an experienced leader of sorts. So that has been my journey so far. And today, as you begin your careers as student designers, I would really love to talk about what I should have known back then. When I was a bright-eyed, student who spent her days in the dens. I don't know what they're called now, but at that time, those studios were the dens, and we spent a lot of time there listening to Gulzar and listening to the peacocks, looking at birds, and cycling. So I wish I would have known a bunch of these things back then. So just brace yourself for some gyan. Any questions? If you have, it'll be great if we can hold off till the end, and we'll get back to those answering those questions. All right. So this is the journey of a designer, from learning how to make a good design, where you are right now, where you need to understand processes, where you need to understand and hone your skill and your craft, like understand how to use Figma or what. Sorry, my references will be from UX design, and I'm probably not from product design because I'm a UX designer. But understanding those tools, understanding those skill sets, and building those up, honing that craft is where you are right now, which will lead you to making a good design. When you start your careers, this is really the most important part. But then you also need to be more forward focused as well, where you have to now start creating new value from what you are creating, right? So there is an object that you are creating, and that object could be an app, could be a feature, could be any of these things. But creating new value, that difference comes when you see that being operated upon, used, and in a context of users and what impact it has on their lives. So you are essentially really powerful in terms of what you are creating, even with addition of a single button, that is. So how do you go from this journey of making a good design to actually creating new value, right? Sorry, there are these 5 things that are really important. And those are my reflections that I would love to talk about in the next few minutes. The first thing is about developing your eye, having creative confidence, being better together, being outcome focused, and being responsible. Let me start with this one. So if you see the image, the set of images right here, it shows a beautiful motif. This beautiful marble inlay motif resides in the Taj Mahal. You've changed your point of view from something that is quite small to something, to see where it actually resides, to see it in its context, in its entirety. And then when you bring the view even outwards, right, you'll see where the Taj Mahal actually resides, which is in the larger context in this city. And then there is an experience that is associated with this particular monument, which is I can, take funny photos there. and make it mine, right? And I then want to take this experience with me, and I take a memento of it. And then you can see that I can invite others to it. It becomes a part of something bigger. So so there are different lenses with which you can view the same set of objects. So you have to, the first thing that you have to do when you are in school is to in design school is to see how you can focus on observing and viewing the same situation through different lenses and through different viewpoints. And this is a skill that doesn't come easily. It's something that you have to start looking out. It can be an app that you love, it can be a product that you love, it can be things that are around you. And you start seeing how they are all connected. Essentially, your limitation for doing this is essentially you. So you have to constantly define how you're looking at things. For me, most of the time, talking to my mentor or my manager has been eye-opening. When they really, fart dala design ko, then that's the point that um, especially if that fardifying the design has happened in a really obvious way, where my work is not good enough. That's where it leads to. So not developing that eye, not looking at things through different viewpoints and experiencing through different senses will lead to the work being substandard, will lead to the work being not contextual, not meaningful. And developing your eye is really the most important thing here. um, the other thing is assemble these mentors around you. We were from the second batch of IIT Kanpur, and that's what we essentially did. This entire batch had a lot of guest speakers, just the way that you have now. Um, and uh, uh, and these were people who came in from different educational institutes to teach us. And so you have to assemble these people around you. When you go for your internships, look at your managers, look at the people who are the way that they themselves are working, so you can look at the same work with fresh eyes and observe and develop your own eye for things, develop your own eye for design. I hope um, this is one of my favorite places from IIT Kanpur, by the way. This is a lovely walkway from the lecture halls. I hope it's unchanged. This was from, I think, 4 or 5 years ago when I had come in for campus hiring. Sorry for the bit of nostalgia there.
Features of IIT Kanpur architecture actually.
Yeah.
This is actually it's got extended now. Academic area has extended further.
Okay.
So this also is continues to extend.
Oh, lovely, lovely. This exactly is what creative confidence is. You have to continuously extend yourselves. So yeah, perfect analogy, sir. um, so focus on improving your craft and skills. There is a lot of design rigor that happens at every stage in your career. You have to really, um, with the context that you are in, you have to constantly improve on how you think and how you do things. So it's really important to get feedback also at the same time. As I mentioned earlier, assemble your mentors and managers or coaches and professors who will help you give early feedback on things, show work in progress. Um, uh, don't be afraid of showing work in progress. Then, as you move from creating great product design, you will then start looking and understanding at what the outcomes are of that design. And the most important thing that happens later is to hone your influencing skills as well. Um, at a very early stage in my career, I actually thought that if I make a beautiful design with great typography and everything in the right grid, and it's exactly as what users need and all of that, I will end up, engineers will end up executing on it, and people will bask in this gloriousness that is Manjiri as a designer. Never works that way. You have to hone your influencing skills. Communication skill is the most important thing because design is just 2% of what you will end up doing. The rest of it is just people, people, people. You will be talking to people who are going to make it. You will be talking to people who are going to approve of it. You will be talking to people for whom it is actually required. So hone your influencing, persuasion, and communication skills. And for that, you have the tools that you are going to learn in college. You will know how to make videos. You will know how to make awesome prototypes that you will put in the user's hands, right? And do remember that a good designer with influencing skills is much more valuable than a great designer who cannot influence for that design to be built, because work might not always speak for itself. uh, so that is what creative confidence is. A lot of other people who actually came up with this name have, of course, said it better than me. So look up the TED talk from Tom Kelly. Look up Julie Zuo's article on creative confidence, and you'll know you'll get to know more than what I'm talking about now. This is this is from my childhood. I don't know if you all remember it. This is Ek Chidiya Anek Chidiya. There is no us and them in product design as well, just the way that there is no us and them in when we come together as a country, right? Just for um, for those who know this reference. Um, so there's no us and them in design or in product development. In the early stages of my career, I used to get this high from winning a battle with an engineer and proving them that I am right and they are wrong. Again, all wrong. You're you're everyone who's involved in that product development process is a designer, especially if their actions are going to impact how people experience your product. If there is a ask from marketing that changes your experience in a particular way, they are influencing your design. If it is a performance issue that is slowing down your app, the engineer is influencing the user experience. If there is an engineering constraint of using a particular technology versus the other, they are influencing the user experience. If there is an if there is an ask of only improvement on the metrics, they are influencing the user experience. So everyone is involved in this product development process. Again, my references will be from what I have done so far, which is user experience in software. So there has to be this really strong collaborative relationship that you need to have with your data scientist, with your PM, with your engineer, with your researcher, with the design integrator, with your motion designer, with your visual designer, and with your design lead as well, or with those leadership as well. Because if you don't have these strong collaborative relationships, uh, you will be a lone wolf, and lone wolves do not lead to a multiplication of the outcomes. And your own effectiveness as a researcher, as a designer, is compromised. And so, and now if you have to bring them all together, I can't again emphasize enough, invest in communication skills. Use methods that you already have learned as a skill. Create a video of your research findings, write a white paper, uh, really learn to write good emails that communicate the pros and cons of your design decisions. Um, I cannot undervalue the importance of writing and the importance of actually making things to change things. So if you want to change the way something is being done, create a diagram of how that process is currently happening. Create a sitemap. Use a video to show the user problems and generate user empathy. Um, Animate, communicate effectively. Because by being better together, the you are creating multipliers, and multipliers in any organization are the most important uh, individuals. Uh, so so you have to understand how your engineers are working. What is it that they are seeking from you? And it's always good to ask. I generally ask my team to have one-on-ones with their engineering leads, with their PM leads, so that they know, you get to know each other at a personal level, and you also get to know each other's disciplines and generate empathy for those disciplines. Um, it results in things like, hey, we need to change the way that our design language is. Here is a new design system that we are going to put in place for the suite of apps that we have. And then you have to communicate the importance of why that design system has to be put in place to an engineer. And when you have that ready relationship already there, it's so much more easier to push things through and ensure that you are doing right by everyone. Right. So that's being better together. Now you'll see on the left that there's this lovely tiramisu. It's one of my favorite shops in Hyderabad. Um, it has a little ink dropper full of coffee liqueur, where which you can keep, pumping in into your tiramisu. Uh, and then this is so well crafted, like, the chocolate covered strawberries in that picture. And then there is me dipping this spoon into this tiramisu. This essentially is my first touch point as a user for this experience that is this tiramisu or this dessert eating. And the outcome of this entire experience which this chef has created is this hopefully pure joy that you see in my face as I eat all of that, right? So while those desserts are the output, the outcome is joy in every customer's face. As a designer, that is what you want to achieve, which is what you can see is that app, but how you influence users life using that app is what is the outcome. And the way that it gets translated into your day-to-day activities is, hey, we need to create something that increases engagement for our app by X%. Sure, that is a metric that you are looking at. What is it that is the expected outcome? What in the user's life is it going to change? What is the job to be done? Right? So that's where you start using your frameworks that hopefully you've learned in design school, which help you um, define these outcomes, right? So as designers, and these outcomes are most of the times pretty subjective, which is joy. How will you measure joy, right? There is no percentage with this joy. As designers, we are guiding the message. We are influencing our users that are in ways that are both seen and experienced and felt. And as such, our work is really, really powerful. And and with that, I've come to this most important responsibility that we have as thinkers and makers and designers, researchers, design integrators, visual designers, or whatever profession is it that you choose, that as thinkers and makers, we are extremely powerful people. The experiences and products that we create become an extension of us, of ourselves, because what we put in it is what gets made, right? Um, and so it is really important to make our discipline, our profession, inclusive of all the people that we are trying to serve. So trust and inclusion should be at the core of what we do, and by extension, at the core of what we create. And when we do so, we actually advance the impact of what we do every single day. And with that, thank you so much. And I'm open for questions if there are.
Thank you, Manjiri. It was a wonderful presentation. I did miss out a little bit in between. There was no connection, but
Mhm.
but one slide was really bad. That was the tiramisu slide. I only have these, Yadav Dhaba and Baba Dhaba here. all around me, where at least for next 200 kilometers, I won't get any tiramisu. I'm feeling really tempted now.
I so wanted to put the empty and the Naveen Market slide, but I didn't have photos of that. I don't know why I've never taken photos of that experience, because it equally applies there, right? The same thing. That
In fact, Naveen Market has totally transformed now. So, in fact, one of our own students, Siddharth Batla, he's with Arcom Consultants. He's also heading the
Mhm.
Design Factory India.
Right.
So he was actually doing a lot of renovations of different spaces. In fact, if you, I don't know, last when you came to Lucknow, the Charbagh area, that has also been kind of completely
Okay.
transformed.
It's
Agra,
been
from
glorious.
Taj Mahal, that particular path from when you take the road to Taj Mahal, that place
Mhm.
has also been transformed. Similarly, Navin
Good.
Market has also been transformed. So Siddharth Bartla is up on, kind of changing these places.
Okay. Okay. It'll be good to come back after all this chaos is over.
Yeah, yeah. So, students, any questions?
And please note, you can really ask me about anything. What should I do to get hired? What should I do as my first project? Anything literally. I hope this presentation was useful to you. A lot of it is my reflections on what I should have known back then. Um, so yeah. And as some of you might know, maybe MJ might know, it's been 11th hour creativity for me, which generally is the best. You have your gist of things
Yeah.
that you want to communicate. So from so many slides, I have made it into these little nuggets. Hope they're useful to you. And yeah, if there are no questions, then
I have one question since nobody's asking any. Oh, there's one question from Nikhilesh Tripathi, as always.
is it in the chat or?
Yeah. So can you please explain user and design advocacy from the poster, from the presentation? I think this is what he's asking.
Yeah, so user and design advocacy in general, there are some people and some companies that you will work with which might not have a great understanding of what design is, right? And how do you then tell them that these are the things that are really important for our users? These are the things that are important for our designers. So if we as designers have to create a culture of being user centered, being customer centered in a large organization, how do you do that? And for that, as design managers or design leaders, people, that's a term that is generally used, but that's just another gyan. But essentially it is about what you will do to create a team that is inclusive, to create a group of people within a product development team that knows and understands what design is, right? And recognizes it. So that is design advocacy. The other is user advocacy, which is more in terms of um, creating awareness of what the user really wants to accomplish. So the user might actually, I'll give an example of what I've worked in productivity apps. People don't want to create a slide deck. They want to create a slide deck so that they can get better at their job. They can present their ideas to their managers so that they get a promotion. That is the actualization of what they want to do. To that, they will end up creating a slide deck. Now, if I have to be, let's say, a Google Slides or a PowerPoint designer, what do I do? I have to keep that in mind and ensure that we have great features which allow people to create good slide decks and share with their managers, right? So that's essentially what our customers want to do and how we can enable them to do. Hope it answers.
There is another question by Shravan Tiwari. So can you please explain have an opinion mentioned in the creative confidence slide?
Yes, having an opinion means that even if that opinion is wrong, you have something to talk about, a point of view to talk about, even if you are a design student, interning in a large team inside a corporation, you should have a point of view, which is based on the information that you have, based on the context understanding that you have, you should have a point of view. And then that point of view, because you have communicated that point of view, I feel that the user might want to do this, but we are steering them in the wrong direction. Let's say that is a point of view. But then that gets resolved by more information or by understanding and getting access to more information by your team members telling it or whatever, but you need to have a point of view. Having a point of view also means that you have done your homework. You have understood what is the problem that you are trying to solve. So having a point of view starts right at. I never had a point of view. Early on in my career, I was like, okay, ये करना है, अच्छा कर लेते हैं, because yeah, somebody is saying that, but do I create a point of view? And the more you do that, the more refined your thinking will be, the more outcome focused your thinking would be as well. There is this saying of strong opinions loosely held. It's essentially that have a point of view, keep it loose, so that it evolves, it adapts. That's about it.
Another question is, can you please tell us more about improving communication skill as a designer, as beginner to be precise?
Don't start presentations with so. Don't talk about typography when you're presenting. When you're present, unless it is a typography presentation. When you are presenting, to know who you are presenting to. If it's a typography class and you're presenting to your professor, please talk about typography. But if you are presenting whatever website you have designed to a client, don't just talk about typography. Talk about the experience that the user will have when they come to it. When you're writing, when you are clearly communicating design decisions, start with the most important information first. Bring it up front. Um, Ensure that you have the right media that enables or adds to that communication. You have the right data that adds to your communication. For example, if you say mobile, working only on mobile is prevalent in emerging markets, that's just a statement. How do you give it credibility? How do you communicate effectively? You add more data to it, you add relevant data to it. So basically how you present design, and all of that will come down uh, to your skills as a designer as well. It's not just about creating beautiful presentations. It is about writing well, standing in front of it, defending it, and giving rationale for it. Defending it doesn't mean कि ये अच्छा है इसलिए अच्छा है. It has to have a rationale behind it. There has to be a set of uh, there has to be decision making behind all of this, a set of things that you have considered as assumptions, things that you know are true, and the decisions that you have taken based on your observations from your research in the field, of the field, whether it is literature study or whatever, and then you communicate what the problem you are trying to solve. I hope you get what I mean.
I would just like to add a little bit to this. What you told, Manjiri, is absolutely right. And I think at the same time, students need to kind of read a lot, build up their vocabulary
Yes,
properly for the use of right kind of
exactly.
words.
Yeah.
And most importantly, I think that you would totally agree with me when I say that there are no shortcuts. If you have really worked hard on something, then
Yes.
obviously you would speak from your heart, and that really gets communicated.
Yes.
If you superficiality never counts actually. So if you have not really worked on with your however good your vocabulary is, however smart you speak, that actually gets visible. So
Absolutely.
I mean,
So
that's perhaps very important.
absolutely. So you have to do the work before you communicate. Mm,
Exactly.
and the other thing that I would add is also to have a healthy diet of good reading, as Satyaki sir said. Read up whoever are the subject matter experts that excite you. These days, I'm reading up a lot on design, leadership, management, and stuff. But you should look at some of the blogs, not just dribble, but a bunch of well-written blogs. Microsoft Design is a good blog on Medium that you can read up. Just plugging. Then there are some good writers. I can share a list with MJ afterwards, maybe if you want. And of course, Don Norman. Hone your visual thinking skills. All of that will help you think better and communicate better.
There is another question from Shri. So, what do you think we should learn or do to manage time and learning better? Seeing that we do have the time, but don't really know which direction to go in.
Um, I don't know why it's getting a bit complex for me to answer this simplistic question, actually. But I think it all depends on what you want to do and what direction you want to take. Like, if you have the time, there are so many courses that you can sign up for, right? In addition to what you are doing in design school. If you want to learn about management, about design management, or if it is learning more about typography, honing those set of skills, you can read up about those. Look at good work. I think that is the most important thing. Again, developing your eye, look at good work. But if you could be specific about this question, I think that'll be great too.
Yeah, that's it, I think. Okay.
I'm not just talking of online courses. I think what I'm trying to essentially say is that know what you want to learn. And if you don't know, ask your professors, ask your mentors, ask us, people who have left IIT Kanpur or passed out of IIT Kanpur.
I
Those,
think one thing that is very important is perhaps for them to return back to campus.
yes,
So, I totally understand, and I'm sorry for this noise, but
no
I
problem.
totally understand this because, staying away, in fact, the first students never came to the campus actually.
Okay.
So, uh, we have all been interacting online all this while.
Mhm.
So, once they are back on campus, I think it will be much better.
Okay. Yeah, totally. I agree. I want
There's
my
another
teachers to be
question.
back soon. Yeah, from Divya Shri, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How can we bring value to our work, to our product when the world seems to reach its saturation point? Um, I think whatever we create, that was the whole point of the presentation. I think if we are outcome focused, right? If we know what value we want to create with this new app that we are building or with this new service that we are building, then it would be easier to work at it. But uh, but I'd love some more clarification on this question, which is saturation point in terms of what? Because there are so many apps or so many similar things there. um, my answer then would be slightly generic, which is if we are being outcome focused, it will find value in users life for sure. So even if it is short lived as an app being taken over by somebody else, it will still have value in users life. But I didn't get the almost no value part. If you could unmute yourself, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question as well if required.
Am I audible?
Yes, Divya.
Yeah. So I was asking that the markets are flooded with products and services, and they seems always almost have no value to them. So creating or building any product or services in this time, where we should have in mind that it's not just adding one product or system, in the crowd, but it will actually add value and add quality to the people who will be using it.
Exactly. If we know what need we are solving, then only it will add value, even if it is a crowded market. I personally work on a to-do list. So many
Hmm.
to everywhere, but then it still adds value. People use it in very unexpected ways. We've seen people use it for ADHD students. Never, as a designer, thought that I would end up designing for a to-do list which is getting used by for these group of people. So so it depends totally on what need you are solving. There are just so many services which sound similar, but they are all catering to some nuanced need as well. But the ones that will stand the test of time are the ones that will cater to a larger set of users, right, and their needs.
Right.
But by the way, but these are this current time that we are in are the perfect time to actually do something new, because people's needs would have suddenly changed, their priorities would have suddenly changed, and now is the time to add a different kind of value, maybe to the same product, or create something totally new. Like, for instance, masks were never a part of a wedding gift, right, earlier, but now it's commonplace. That's just a seemingly stupid example, but that essentially is the new value that is created, a totally new product that has come. It was an existing product, came to the forefront, but this is ripe. This environment is ripe for new innovation.
Right. Thank you, Manjari, for answering my question, and your session was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Um, I'd love.
Are there any more questions?
No, sir, not. Okay, there is another
Okay,
question.
Nikhilesh, as an experience manager, okay, um, I actually lead a team of people who are designers and researchers. They are working on the products that I mentioned, right? To do and OneNote, and we essentially work very collaboratively with the PMs and engineers and data scientists and researchers um, within my current role. And as an experience manager, my responsibilities are twofold. One is my responsibility as a manager, because I am managing a team. How do I mentor and coach my team? That is one aspect of it. The other is how I enable them to get better by and be a facilitator for their careers in Microsoft. So that is one aspect of being a manager. The other is, because I'm a designer, an experience manager, a UX manager, um, I collaborate. I work very closely on defining what we should be building next. And this I do together with my PM and engineering counterparts. And that is the other part of being a design leader. So they are the business and engineering leaders. I'm the design leader there in that group, which helps define what to build next, what to focus on, and so on and so forth. So, in very generic terms, without giving away all of what I do at Microsoft, this is essentially what I do. The other thing that I also do is, as a manager, is to find talent, is to find diverse group of people who can join the teams at Microsoft, and that is also another responsibility. I hope that answers your question, Niklesh. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Manjiri. Really wonderful. So,
Certainly.
who all are Microsoft from IT Kanpur right now?
So there is Paridhi, of course, she'll be speaking next. Then there's Abhijit Bairagi. And who else is there?
I
Vivek Shankar is there. He also spoke. Do listen to his if you
Yeah,
want
Vivek.
to. Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing, and I was supposed to say it during that slide. Communicating effectively, he's done a great job at storytelling. And that's what he talks about there. That's the presentation to see if you want to think about communicating effectively. Yeah.
Mithali is also there, right?
Yeah, Mithali is not there anymore.
Mithali left. Piyush Belchandan, Kirti Ahlawat, and recently Manisha Soren has joined Microsoft.
Okay.
Microsoft is
Manisha
hiring in
also
bulk.
from-
Yeah.
Okay.
But they are but they have joined some other team, not Studio Plus 91.
Yeah, she's in a different team. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. All right.
Okay. Take care,
And do
Manjiri. You're joining in
take
for
care.
Paridhi's session?
Most likely.
Yeah, you're joining.
We've been exchanging slides, so I'm sure. As
Chalo.
always.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Manjiri. Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.
Mrityunjay,
Yes, sir.
by the time Paridhi's talk begins, I don't know where I will be. So
Yeah.
in case I'm not able to connect, because beach में ये भी कट रहा था, I don't know. So just kind of start the session.
Yeah, sure.
I'll be there.
Yeah, sure,
Okay?
sir. Sure.
Sure.
Okay, sir.
Take care.
Bye.
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 All
Have a good
right.
night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.